doing here. So we're all trying this way of communicating and interacting with everyone in this way for the first time. So looks like somebody came on and shared a picture of an octopus there.
Yeah, that's not a sheep.
It says I'm viewing Blake Vandenberg's screen. Blake, we're checking out your screen, man. So on that's like perfectly on topic is that we're going through these seminars and kind of playing with this Zoom medium, and we're loving it. It's awesome, but we're also learning more and more about what the capabilities are with each seminar and each meeting. So just it's great. We don't have to leave our room, and we can share pictures and information in a way that we're way up here in Alaska. It's hard to talk to everyone face to face like this. So we're doing the best we can, but we've got some little, we're learning. We've got some technological stuff going on, kind of like the back feed in the microphone when the pop star takes the stage.
Thor, we're at 28 folks there on here. I just admitted the last couple. Maybe we'll just give it another minute or so. Just letting another one in right now. So we'll just give another minute or so, and then we'll get going. "31 folks. Apparently everyone wants to learn how to sheep hunt."
Cool. I've led many people astray, so bring them on.
Cabot's the one really leading people astray with that Dall sheep you got behind you. That's setting a little bit unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, he killed a 50-incher. Look at it.
53.
53-incher.
53, whatever.
Dan's trying to beat him in volume, but I
got him beat in volume, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam, I'm nominating Eli for APHA board.
This might not be the correct venue to take nominations. But.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at 31, Thor. I would say take it away.
Okay, great. So my name is Thor Stacy. I'm a registered hunting guide here in Alaska. The topic of this panel discussion is sheep hunting. I have a passion for sheep hunting. I love sheep hunting. I guide sheep hunters. I've been guiding sheep hunters now for 22 years. I'm just about ready to retire. And I've taken a few personal rams myself over the years. I just happen to, and then the area that I am most familiar with in the state, and this is important for everyone's perspective on my talk, is I'm most familiar with the Brooks Range, and I'm most familiar with the northeastern portion of the Brooks Range where my current hunts are conducted. And the reason why that's important, I'll get into right now. And the name of my business is Arctic Alaska Adventures. So when you look at the list of the exhibitors, that's how you find me, because we're listed by our business name as exhibitors. So with that, I'm going to share hey, I need screen sharing enabled. So I'm going to give everyone briefly just kind of an overview. Well, maybe we'll wait for that real quickly here. Okay. Well, I think screen sharing was disabled because we had some accidental screen sharing going on. So I guess what I'll start, I'll go to the Oh, we got it now. Okay, we're up. Okay, so here's Alaska, and um, this is a Google Earth picture. Sheep occur in mainly the interior, so not in the coast. Here's my little hand. This is the Brooks Range. You see the Brooks Range there. Brooks Range. Here's the Alaska Range right there. You see my little thing lights up. The Wrangell Mountain Range, the Chugach Mountain Range. And those are the areas mostly with sheep. And so when you hear my presentation today, me being a hunter from the Brooks Range, you see that I'm in the northern part of Alaska, and a lot of all of my area is north of the tree line in the Arctic, and that terrain has a lot to do with how hunts are conducted and how a client's experiences are. Dan is down here in the Chugach Range, and I'm going to zoom in real quickly here, and I'm just going to pick a place here in 14C, and we're going to zoom in real quick, and we're just going to give you a look at the topography of this country. And so you see how rugged and serious with glaciers and steep mountains and deeply foraged valleys. So that gives you a little perspective on where Dan is at, and in the area that I'm talking about is much more gentle hills. So it's a different perspective, same animal, but a little bit different perspective. So what I'm going to do is just go through a day in the life on a backpack sheep hunt. So you wake up in the morning in your little one-man tent. It's tight, it's confined. You have your own jet boil stove, so it's light out in the morning, and you hear some rustling over in the guide's tent. You're not staying in the same tent as your guide, and it appears that something might happen. You're not fogged in, it's not raining, it's not snowing. And so you wake up, you start your jet boil, and you make yourself some coffee, a little instant coffee deal, and you have some kind of freeze-dried breakfast or breakfast bar. Everything's lightweight. You've carried everything on your back to get to this point, and you spent the night sleeping on a little inflatable air mattress. And hopefully you haven't been weathered in for days, so your body's not sore from laying down, because that'll happen. And so you go through your breakfast routine. Your guides kind of come over, give you the rundown for the day, and the rundown for the day usually involves, basically always involves one of two options: getting up and putting your day gear together for a hunt where you're going to go up a creek and glass and look for some sheep on a hunt, or pursue a ram perhaps you saw the day before. Or you're going to pack up all of your stuff and put it in your backpack, and you're going to get ready to keep moving into position, meaning that you're still moving your spike camp location to a place where you want to hunt. So those are the two decision points during the day. We'll assume that you're going to go sheep hunting for the day, and you're not just moving camp. So you put your lunch, your all of your warm gear. You make sure always you have your rain gear. You always have some extra candy bars and some food in your pack in case you get stuck on the hill. You always have your headlamp. I like to make sure a client's got 20 rounds of ammo on them in case the shooting goes badly, because shooting does go badly sometimes, or sometimes you have to check the zero on your rifle because you dropped it in a rock pile. That's happened a few times. You've got your walking sticks, and you pretty much try to have nothing but that. You've got as little of stuff as you can. Your guide is going to have a spotting scope. He's going to have your extra food. He's probably going to throw in some medical kit or a few things to take care of stuff if it goes bad. He's got game bags. He's got knives. He's got a sharpener. He's got all of his stuff that he needs to take care of an animal in the field. And then these days, your guide will most assuredly have an inReach. And the inReach is a Iridium texting device that allows him to communicate with other people, either other guides or search and rescue or medical folks or his pilot if, God forbid, something goes wrong on the trip. That's a big safety feature that we have going on in virtually all the camps in the state now. So after that, you're going to move. Sheep hunting is a wonderful experience as far as a spot and stock hunt goes. You are using your eyes. You're out looking for trophy mature rams with your eyes, glassing. They're white animals on black rocks, and you can see sometimes they're white animals in snow. It can be, everyone wonders why is sheep's white? Well, most of the year here in Alaska, it's snowy out and they're pretty hard to see in the snow. So that's going to be, you're going to be moving and glassing. It's different than bear hunting because you're a lot more active, and what you're doing is you're actively hunting the sheep down. Most of what happens is you spot the sheep from the bottom. You work for days or however long it takes to identify a ram you want, and you wait until you find the right sheep from the bottom before you make a climb. So you make a climb, we'll just assume no sheep are spotted that day, and you come back to the tent. Usually you've been out on your feet for 6-7 hours of the day. You've glassed. It's probably been maybe a little rainy, a little cold, and you get back to your camp and you just pretty much go right back into your little one-man tent, and you have your dinner, which is freeze-dried. You talk to the guides, you have some kind of debrief. Hopefully the weather's nice enough that you can sit around the tents a little bit and not just have to hutch up and get out of the tough weather. But at the end of the day, it's a really simple style of hunting that relies on high-tech gear that we have today that we didn't used to have for your comfort and shelter. And most of what you do is those 7 or 8 hours of hunting. And hunting is spot and stock and moving around. That being said, I'll just wrap up by saying that as a client, you're our weapon. As a client, it's your job to take care of your feet and your health, just like you take care of an outboard engine or a car or tractor or anything else. You change the oil and you do routine maintenance. When you're out on a sheep hunt, on any of these mountain hunts, your body is really what you need to get around, and it's something that you need to change a mindset that if you got a little hot spot on your foot, you need to address it. If you can really go and you're super athletic, probably more athletic than me, that's a factor that as a guide, I'm like, okay, my weapon can move, he can climb, he can get through the rocks. Maybe you're not as physically capable. Well, hopefully you can shoot. Hopefully you can reach out there and touch something at 300-400 yards perhaps. And so as a guide, when we're sizing up our hunters and we're thinking about maneuvering through the backpack and the gear and all of that, we're thinking about what your capabilities are, and our mind is constantly turning on how to put you in a position to spot the right sheep, and then how are we going to get you on the mountain with that animal. So got a little bit outside of just the day in and day out routine of sheep hunting. I think we'll move to Dan. Dan, did you want to go next or Cat?
Yeah,
okay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
We'll go to Cabot, and then when we're all done, we'll be available for questions. So Cabot, go ahead, take the floor.
Thanks, Thor. I appreciate everybody getting on here. This is kind of a cool deal because just like Thor kind of touched at the beginning, we're all the way up north here, and honestly, we don't get to meet a lot of our clients until they show up in the field. So this is kind of neat. I know there's a lot of guides that I see and outfitters on the call right now. So hopefully we don't get too many hard questions here at the end, but pretty exciting stuff. You've got this sheep hunt in mind as a hunter, and you start calling guides and outfitters and start talking to people. And I think like what a lot of people, as they're looking, get into, they don't ask the right questions, right? You need to talk to your outfitter. You need to be prepared, I guess. And that comes from your physical side all the way down to your mental, and then just know-how of like what you're getting into when you get into the field. So I get a lot of questions from, potential clients and hunters that have been on sheep hunts or haven't been on sheep hunts. And I think the one thing that I really like from hunters is when they come up and they're fully honest with you. A lot of our clientele are a little bit older in age. We do get young go get 'em guys that are 30 years old or younger, and they're ready. They're ready to go up into the mountains. But typically, our clientele base is going to be that older generation that you've worked hard your whole life, and this is a dream hunt. So when it comes into the physical preparedness coming into the field, that's going to be the key. I mean, just like Thor kind of started touching there on the end of his speech, you've got to be a well-oiled machine. You might be an older machine, but as long as you're oiled and ready to go, you don't have to be in the top tier of physical shape to do a sheep hunt. But you have to be in the best physical shape that you can put your body into at that time and date, so that when you show up to go hiking up, the mountains in the Brooks Range or down with Dan and the Chugach, you've got to be prepared to get up that hill. So I would say, don't try to put yourself in a position where you look at yourself and you're like, man, I'm not going to be able to keep up with my guide. And it's not that you have to keep up with your guide. Your guide has to accommodate you as the client. So keep that in mind when you start talking to people, and when you show up on your hunt. You really want to just be in the best physical shape that you can put yourself into, and then be honest with your outfitter and your guide prior to coming, and let them know any past medical history, heart issues, diabetes, anything that we can work with ahead of time or know, so that we're not 15 miles back and there's an issue that arises, and then now all of a sudden it goes from a fun sheep hunt to a rescue mission. I think a lot of people kind of push their health away, or might be a little bit embarrassed about the condition that they're in, and that's not the right mindset, I think, to go into a sheep hunt, because one, it is going to be the hardest hunt that you probably ever do in your life. So be honest with everybody, and when you come and you show up, it's going to be a lot easier, a lot funner to get after rams, and it's going to be challenging all the way from getting up the hill, making a shot on your animal, and then that's not even just the end of it. You've got to get that sheep hide, horns, meat, everything back to your takeout point, and you got to get there safely. So honesty with your guide, I think, physical preparedness, like I was talking, and then these hunts are expensive. So gear, as much as everybody wants to go out and buy the highest end KUIU outfit and Sitka or First Light, any of that, sometimes that's kind of out of reach, even after spending all the money to come on a hunt like this. So I would say, when you start looking at your gear side of things, go for what you can afford, the best quality of gear that you can physically afford. And when it comes to footwear too, I would say a good set of boots. I see a lot of guys come up, they don't wear their boots ahead of time. You start hiking half a mile, even just a mile from camp, and you start getting issues with foot cramping or hot spots. And if you don't address those, like Thor was saying right off the bat, it could make just an absolutely miserable experience. So you just want to be on top of everything from when you start booking, if it's 6 months out or if it's 2 or 3 years away. Just prepare yourself for knowing what you're going to get into. Ask your outfitter the right questions. Like Thor said, he's in the Brook Range, north side, far east. He's way above alpine level, so you're not going to have a lot of brush potentially to have to beat through to get up into sheep country, where some areas down south, where Dan is, he's glaciated ice fields and some stuff, and other areas, you might have to get through a bunch of alders on the first fourth of the mountain to get up into the sheep country. So just know what to ask your guide or your outfitter before you come. And I think just being prepared that way is probably going to be the best route to have a super successful sheep hunt. So I'm going to pass it on to Dan.
Good job, Cabot. Yeah, my name is Dan Montgomery. I'm a master guide. I've been guiding sheep in the Chugach since 1992. I took a couple there myself prior to that. There's so many things going in the sheep hunting, but both Thor and Cabot, I think, tapped into the most important thing, is that's keeping your feet healthy. Have a set of boots that are going to keep your feet healthy, and be prepared physically as best you can, like Cabot says. But if you get blisters and your feet go to heck, or you got shoes that you aren't comfortable in, boots, you're going to have a real problem. But that would be my number one thing, is to have a good set of boots. I started using the Cabela's Canada hunting boot back in '90 when they first came out, and made by Mendel, and they were 10-inch high boots, and they were the best thing that was ever invented as far as I was concerned at the time. I was using Red Wing Irish setters before that. I would go through two pair every season, and my feet were miserable. I was miserable at the end of the day. They ached so bad I couldn't hardly stand it. But good, healthy feet is one of the main functions of sheep hunting if you're going to have a good time. But over the years, I've been very had a very high success rate on sheep. And I think one of the biggest things you can do, certainly to do that, is come in the best physical condition you can. I used to run quite a bit. I'd be doing 10 miles, 8-minute miles, runs 3 times a week before the season started. I still climb mountains and stuff on the trails here locally. I think a good conditioning for me, I always look at it, I go over to Lazy Mountain here. It's a 3,000-foot climb. I try to do that within an hour these days. I used to do it in 50 minutes, but now it's an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. But try to get yourself in the best physical condition you can. But out in the field, I absolutely think it's important as a guide and as a hunter too, but to stay as optimistic as you possibly can. Always have a good attitude. Another thing I do, I use every bit of daylight available to me. I get up crack of dawn or earlier. I think I've failed if I'm up after the hunter gets up. I try to get out of that tent at the very first hint of light, get everything prepared for breakfast and stuff, get these guys fed, and hit that mountain as early as I can. I can't stress how many times I've been on the mountain, did the climb, get everything up there, and within 2 minutes of getting to my destination, looking over that ridge, the rams are up, something is happening, or I'm looking into a canyon and they're just moving. And if I had been there just 2 minutes later, I would have never seen them, never had a clue they were there, wouldn't have located them all day. Just that 2 minutes that you can get to that mountain and have that opportunity, do it. It's certainly something. I don't even sleep hardly some nights. I'm keyed up enough. I want to get out first thing in the morning and start doing that climb. I have my pack completely ready. I have the hunters get everything in their pack. I said, I don't want you packing stuff in the morning. I want that pack, everything in there except for the clothes you're wearing and your equipment. Have it ready to go so we can throw that back on as soon as we finish breakfast and hit the mountain and get up there and spend that whole day. Most of my sheep days on the mountain, early season is certainly in the 18-hour range. 12 hours is a short day on that start of the season. And I'm famous for coming off the mountain in the dark. I look at that mountain before I ever start to hunt and figure out how I'm going to get on it and where I'm going to go and locate that. And then also try to study that mountain. So I know how I'm going to get off that mountain in the dark if I have to. I'm very aggressive out there. If I see a sheep, I make a plan for that stalk before I ever try to get on the mountain, and I figure out how I'm going to get there, how I'm going to access, where I'm going to go to do that, and have my reference points on that mountain so I don't get up there and don't know where I am, because everything changes completely when you're another 3,000 feet on that mountain and you can't see where you are, and you got to have reference points to where the sheep was. Pick a rock out, a chute, a cliff, something that you can identify with and know where you're located on that mountain. It's vitally important to get there and be able to know where you are and where you think the sheep are. I've always said almost have a sixth sense sometimes. I'm doing something, I got it all planned out. I get up there and I'll look around and I'm on the backside of the mountain from where we saw the sheep. I want to come over and I've got it all lined up and I see where I had originally planned that. And then I look over and I just get a feeling like I need to get higher. You never are failing if you go higher on the mountain. A lot of times I've made 1,000-foot climb I didn't have to make. But once you get high above that mountain and you got that advantage on that sheep, and you come over, now maybe you are 1,000 feet too high and you got to go down, but you got the total advantage where you're above that sheep. He's not looking up there, and you can get down there and make that stalk and make it happen. And it's a system that works very good. And other times I've had challenges where we're in an extremely rugged country. There is no possibility of getting above the sheep. So you study them, you see what's going on. You say, how can I make this happen? I got to be inventive here. I've taken willow brush before, cut them so I'm holding them in front of me, walked right out in front of the sheep at 600 or 700 yards and just barely moving, and have the hunter do the same and move across that open country where they aren't, and they'll stare right at you sometimes, but they don't see you, and move across that open country 200 or 300 yards. And then you can get into a position where you can get up underneath them, make your stalk and adjust that way. But you got to have an imagination where you can see in your mind how you have to accomplish this hunt to make it happen. And just like I said, being aggressive, and that really helps. And you know, I got a positive attitude. I always think I'm going to get that ram. And certainly we've come back to camp at night and we haven't got them before, but if you're just give that confidence in that hunter that we are going to be successful, we keep doing that. Hydration. I've had hunters that come in absolutely fantastic condition and you can't get them to drink water during the day. And you're trying to keep them hydrated, and they can climb up that mountain. They're right on my boot heels all day long. The second day, they can't even move hardly because they haven't drank enough water. They say, well, I don't feel like drinking. I feel a little sick, you know, because you have been exerting a lot and going up the mountain and stuff. And I can't tell you enough, keep your hunters hydrated, yourself hydrated. And that is a big part of being able to hunt day after day after day, even if you are in really good physical condition. And like I said, one of the biggest things I do is any kind of a hunt is I really study the mountain before we ever start on it, make my waypoints, find my reference points, so I know where I'm at on that mountain when I get up there, and I got a plan, and I'm going to be able to get up there above those sheep and make a good stalk on them. We've had other instances where I've had big rams. They're at the end of a canyon, extremely steep country, extremely steep canyon, and there's no way to approach them within 1,000 yards that they can't see you. I've actually gone up there with the camp and waited until dark, walked for the sheep, or make a plan underneath them, camped right underneath them, literally walked up there in the dark and camped right underneath those sheep. And wake up in the morning and you're looking up straight up the mountain at them, and lo and behold, they step out there, and now I remember one particular time we had a great big ram, and we had to sit there an hour and a half, and he finally came around the mountain, and he was 435 yards straight above us, and we had 3 packs and 2 sleeping bags stacked up for this guy to get a rest so he could shoot basically straight uphill. And we were right underneath him, and I had talked to the hunter about the shot, and he wanted to aim, you know, a little high on that ram because it's 435 yards. And I was just off after him. I said, you got to aim where that brisket meets the mountain underneath him. And he was just so sure he was going to shoot underneath that ram at that distance. And literally, it was probably a 75-yard shot, horizontally. And we debated it. And I said, just please give me that first shot. And he did. He just finally agreed to put those crosshairs right at the brisket on that ram. And he hit him about 5 inches up into the chest. And that bullet came out the top of his spine. It was that vertical on us. And it was just, and trying to talk that hunter to believing that was going to happen, it took a lot. But those little things like that, really have a big bearing on how successful you are. But being able to be prepared and I think you know, I certainly don't mind coming around a mountain in the dark. I'm very comfortable in the rocks, the steep stuff. I like it. It's just something that I'm very comfortable with. I always have been. And when I first got up and started hunting sheep in Alaska, I just yeah, loved the whole thing. But running through the mountains and finding sheep and locating stuff, it was just nothing. You know, I dreamed about it all my life and got up there and started doing it when I was about 25 years old. But being aggressive, going out there and trying to figure out what it's going to take to get that sheep and get off that mountain safely, and you know, those kind of things make a hunt very successful in the long run. And I just, you know, the guide's attitude and the hunters. I used to be able to book my hunters in advance. All my sheep hunts are draw permit now, and physical conditioning of my hunters is something I can't address near as easily as I used to. I used to be able to pick my guys, you know, and be booked out 3 years in advance. And now I get guys that aren't in very good physical condition. And that's been a big part of my existence for the last 10 years, you know, trying to get these guys that aren't in very good physical condition on sheep. And I just have areas that I can access, that I apply them for, that are easier access. And there's always a couple canyons that'll have a big ram in it that I can get somebody that isn't in really good shape into that country. And I plan that hunt around those circumstances where I know this guy isn't in very good shape, and we can go forward and still get him a ram and get him an opportunity. I took Steve Hornaday 2 years ago, and he was 70 years old, and he was just decent. You know, he wasn't in great physical condition. He absolutely abhorred the steep stuff. Didn't want to go up there at all. And so we put him in a canyon that the rams tend to be down the scree slopes. They come out of there periodically, and you got to sit there and study them and you get the right circumstances, but you can be successful there. And you know, that's a big part of it, is looking at your hunter and the conditions and be able to put them in an area that they can physically get around in. But having a real positive attitude and being aggressive and figuring out what it's going to take to get a particular ram in a particular place. Another thing that we have done, and I started doing right from the get-go, is I just take a standard 3/8 nylon rope, and I knot it every 15 inches. And I have that 50-foot rope in my pack. And I've roped up guys 7 times on one hunt, one stop, one day. And you know, safe. Never have had a hunter fall, but that rope around them gives them that extra bit of safety when you're physically climbing up from toe hold to finger hold and stuff. And you get up to that, it's usually a 15-foot really bad spot. You can get that hunter up into that next level, up onto those rocks, up onto the scree where it's safe again, and have them follow you through there. But in the Chugach, it's extremely rugged in places, and we don't see as much of it now with the draw permits. There isn't as much pressure on the sheep, but they used to. All the big stuff was in the really extremely rugged stuff, and I always felt like I was really comfortable in there, and I felt like we had a extremely good chance of killing any of those rams in that really rough country. So I was about the only guy that was doing any of that hunting up in that extremely rough stuff. A lot of people would look at it and say they're unhuntable, but if there's a ram on the mountain, I figure there's some way I can get up there and take that ram. And
you can look behind Dan and see the success that Dan has done.
And
anyway, that's why I think our success rate is high. I've taught my guides that way. You know, be aggressive. If there's any way to get a ram that day you see, and be safe and get off the mountain, don't wait for the next day. The weather might change, the rams might move. You never know. But if you can physically get him that day and still be safe and get off the mountain, we do it. We don't wait for the day. We go out there and make it happen. And that's why we're so successful over the years.
Yeah. And I think that some of the takeaway here, I know I speak for the other folks on the panel, is that show up with a positive mental attitude. You know, we'll go right to the wire. I mean, we don't quit hunting sheep on the second to last day of the trip or the last day. We're go to the wire. So come up with a positive mental attitude and we got you. I know that we all appreciate all of our customers over the years because without you, we wouldn't get to go sheep hunting. So I just look back at the time and all the trips that I've been on and the wonderful customers that we've had, and thank everyone for coming up with us. And with that, I want to get to some questions. I've got a question here. Maybe we could go to Dan quick. We got a few questions lined up here. So the question is, there's been some changes in technology for rifles over the years. I remember just 10 years back, a lot of the options didn't exist for either lightweight rifles or optics. What do you like of the stuff that's out there new? What do you like?
Are you asking us then?
Yeah, that's a question for that came from the group here. And go ahead, Dan.
Okay. I'm not seeing that, but I like somebody to bring a gun that they can shoot extremely well. You know, I can't stress that enough. It's a new day and age out there right now. We've had guys making shots that I never even thought about contemplating, you know, even 10 years ago, you know, and it has changed. The technology's changed. Everything has changed. But another thing, not only being able to have a rifle that shoots well and flat, but also being able to shoot that rifle. And one of the things I've noticed over the years, and it started right off the bat, was I would carry my own rifle. The hunter would have a rifle, and invariably climbing up through these rocks, someplace I would hear that rifle hitting the rocks. And it was very evident to me when I even started assistant guiding back in '85 that didn't work very good. So I started carrying the hunter's rifle. I just physically carry it in my hand. I'm comfortable with it. I very seldom fall at all. And even if I do, I protect that rifle. And I started a hunter's rifle, and that eliminated that angle of it, where I didn't have to wonder whether that rifle was knocked off. Once you've made that stock that took you 7 hours to get on, you had a rifle that was still going to shoot. Another thing I look at when the hunter is getting ready to shoot, I watch the end of his barrel. If it's weaving around, if he's excited and he's not calmed down, and you can just tell he's gonna jerk that trigger, trying to make it happen because he's just so excited about it. I just tell him to stop. Normally the sheep doesn't even know you're there. Tell him to stop, duck your head, just take a deep breath. There is no hurry. We're going to make this shot count. We're going to make this one opportunity count, and just tell them to kind of gather themselves and make that shot count. But as far as rifle and stuff, it you know, anything that shoots flat that you're really good shot with it, bring that rifle.
Okay, thanks for that, Dan. I'll field the next one, and then after this next question, we'll go to the next question will be for Cabot. So Mike Koch says, what's the best way for clients to train for sheep hunting if they don't live near a mountain they can climb weekly? Is running longer distances enough? Do hunters need to include stair climbers? Are there better ways to prep? And so what I would say is think about the activity that you're going to do. And what I think is you need to be able to carry 50 pounds on your back comfortably, not up the mountain. I'm just saying over regular uneven terrain for 6-7 hours of the day. And I pick 50 pounds because that's about what your pack with your gear and food's going to be on a trip. Or if you're coming off the mountain with a big sheep head on your pack. So think about that first of what you need to do. And so that involves some strength. Running, I've had runners that by the end of the trip we're getting in shape for carrying weight, but carrying weight on your back is different than running. And so the guys that I've had the most success that come from flat country and have done well on the trips have found a way to get the pack that they're going to take on the trip, whatever that pack is, 6-7 months, hopefully before the trip begins. And they put that pack on their back and do a loop around the farm or do some kind of walk, even if it's not particularly steep and uneven, and they get used to feeling the weight of the pack on their back. And I think that that's fundamentally what you need to be prepared to do because if you climb the mountain and you don't have much weight, it's similar to having a pack on your back. If you're tramming over long distances, moving from place to place, you've got a pack on your back. Everything you do, you've got a pack on your back. Running is great. It builds a good base, but you need some strength in there as well. And you need to feel that the pressure points on your shoulders from where that pack sits, and get used to balancing. You've got some core muscles involved balancing that pack. So I encourage folks, get some weight on your back and go for walks. Put your boots on. When you get weight on your back, it's totally different as far as blisters go. You can walk in boots.
Just to hit on, just not to cut you off there, but you're kind of hitting it really good. But the like functional movements, right? So you don't need to go and I've seen a lot of people come up and they do a lot of training by themselves ahead of time, which is usually what everybody's doing. But if you've got just a little bit of extra time, get a trainer. Get a meal plan. Me and my fiance were just at the gym this morning. I hit the Stairmaster for 40 minutes and then I came back, ate, and now I'm talking to you guys. So it's not that you can't get ready. I mean, you just have to stay in shape and keep that shape going. But I see Dan up on Lazy Mountain. It's a 6-minute drive from me, and I bump into Dan running that hill, and he is on it all the time. So I mean, that's the kind of stuff, you look at your guide when you show up and you're like, man, that guy's in shape. He's going to whoop my butt. Well, did you whoop your butt coming into the sheep hunt? Did you put yourself in the position where you're training to expect to climb up a 3,000 foot mountain in an hour? That's
Here's what happens when you show up in camp. We are used to size. We size sheep and bears and whatever for a living. The moment that you walk off the airplane, we're sizing you up. And what we're thinking is, what do we got? How much juice in the tank do we got? Where can we go? And when we look at you, we're putting into a calculation about what we can do on the trip. And it's just like the more options, we start clicking off hunt options, which is fine, because I'm not going to ever ask anything from a customer that's going to make it a miserable trip. We may get 100% out of you, but we're not going to make it miserable. It's going to be fun. You're going to have a good time. And that means we have to set the trip to match whatever you've got physically. So anyway, with that, let's go to the next one. This is start with Cabot here on the panel discussion. It says, what optics do you guys suggest clients bring? I think emphasis clients there. Size of binos, spotter, ranger, etc. So take it away, Cabot. What do you think?
Yeah, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, with gear stuff. I mean, you're already spending a lot on a trip. And I think when it comes to optics, that's going to help you a lot. Rifle optics, try to get the best quality that you can afford. Some guys can't go out and they can't buy a Leica rangefinder binocular, for $3,500, but they can afford a Vortex, 10x42s that are comparable. But we're using them all the time. So you'll come into the field and you'll see probably Dan and Thor and me. We'll have Leica, Swarovski. Some guys are carrying Zeiss. Any of those top line optics are just critical, especially during sheep hunting. I mean, you're spotting these sheep from miles and miles away, and you've got to judge with a spotter if that ram is worthy of going after. And if you've been in there, prior with your guide's been in there, he's scouted maybe a little bit and he knows kind of an animal that you're going after, but you still have to be able to judge as a guide and an outfitter to save that extra miles on the feet. So I would say, I use 10x42s. They work really well, but I've also seen a lot of guys use 8-power binoculars, and then they just carry a little bit heavier spotting scope. So they spot the sheep, then they flip out their spotting scope and take a look through that. As a hunter coming into a hunt, a lot of people ask me if they should bring their own spotting scope. I'm not really one to force somebody to bring one. I mean, it's 3.5, 4 pounds extra that you're going to be carrying that, like Dan said, I mean, 2 minutes trying to get to the top of a ridge could make or break, you getting a shot off on that ram that you've been looking at for a couple days or even longer, so your guide is going to have good optics when it comes to spotting scopes. So
But let me butt in there just for a second, though. I'll say that, for many years when I was an assistant guide and kind of coming up through the ranks, I mean, we don't make a ton, as assistant guides, they get paid well. They do good. They do the best they can to have the highest quality equipment. I know that I do everything I can to bring on guys with good gear. But if you own a Swarovski spotting scope or a Zeiss spotting scope, call your outfitter, call the guy you're going to go sheep hunting with and say, hey, you know what? Would you be offended if I brought my nice spotting scope up? Because for many years as an assistant guide, I had the optics that I could afford. And it wasn't a Swarovski scope, it wasn't a Zeiss, and it wasn't a Leica. It was just a smaller fixed power scope, and I got guys sheep, but that spotting scope makes a big difference on what you can do. I see a question here about rangefinders. If your guide doesn't have a rangefinder, bring it, but give it to him on the stock. You don't need to be monkeying with the rangefinder whatsoever. Let the guide have the binos and the rangefinder. Let him do all the calculations, and once again, you're the weapon. You're the sniper, he's the spotter. So these are good questions to ask of the person you're going to go sheep hunting with. Clients go with me. Don't worry, man. I got a Swarovski spotting scope. Don't worry. I've got rangefinder binoculars. I've got this dialed. But you've got a Swarovski scope. Actually, bring that up. We'll drop that in case we got a failure with a piece of gear. That's going to be my answer. Some people are going to have a different answer. But if you've got the optics, especially a high-end spotting scope, consider it. For personal binoculars as a client, for many years I used 10x25 Leicas just because I spot white dots and then put the spotting scope on them. I didn't need big binos. That changed as I started to hunt more and more in the snow. The bigger objective lens on a 10x42 inch set of binos has given me a competitive advantage sometimes when the sheep are looking at me and I spot them first. So I use a bigger bino. As a client, you need a pair of 8x32s, a pair of 10x25s, something lightweight. And if you're going to get up close and personal with those rams, put your face in the spotting scope. Check them out. And don't pass up an opportunity when you're out there to look at these bunches of rams and sheep that your guide's looking at. Just take the spotting scope away from them. Enjoy the beautiful sights. Those sheep are awesome. They're beautiful. I can see pictures of sheep in my mind's eye right now. When you're out there, get a gander at those sheep. So here's a question.
Got another question here.
I was going to touch a little bit on that, Thor. I think a rangefinder binocular is one of the best inventions in the last 20 years. When Leica first came out with their GeoVids, they were 3 pounds. I grabbed a pair right off the bat, and 7 power only, crystal clear. And I packed those things around for 10 years, but just on a stock, you could range a boulder on a mountainside and range deep and figure out if I get to that boulder, I'm going to be 315 yards or so from that sheep. So, if you get to there, you already know what you're going to shoot, the distance and stuff, you have your hunter ready. It's a heck of a tool. Guys, almost all the hunters these days have a good spotting scope. They have good binoculars, and I tell them, certainly bring binoculars. Those are a heck of a tool. You can look at things. You're looking at the other side. The guides have good stuff. We all have high-end optics. All my guides doing stuff. That's the only way to go. But a spotting scope for the hunter isn't necessary. We have good spotting scopes, but sometimes a hunter is really into looking at everything himself. He wants to look across the mountains on the other side of the river or whatever and look for sheep over there. They feel carrying it. I have them carry it. Another thing in getting in shape, for some of the questions was that if you aren't having mountains to climb, but one thing I stress, if you have any kind of stadium around there, even excuse me, even a two-story building where you have 2 sets of stairs to go up, if you just go over there and you put that 50-pound pack on your back and you go up that stairs as hard as you can and then go down, just step down it. But that up and down on those thigh muscles makes all the difference in the world in that kind of conditioning, because that's what you're doing in the mountains, is physically climbing like that. And a stair is a good stable platform, so you aren't stressing yourself too much. Don't try to run down with that weight. That's where you're going to have problems where you can get injured. But carrying that heavy pack up and down just a single flight or a double flight of stairs, that was a really good opportunity to get your shape, get your thigh muscles and your calf muscles in good shape.
So we're coming, we've got 10 minutes to go here. And I want to remind everyone, especially the folks that just signed on, we are recording this, so you can, this will be up on the Expo site here after this is done. So with that, I see a good question here. Well, I think we'll start with Cabot again. It says, I'm hearing that Alaska's, and I think we all want to have a chance to respond to this because we guided all different parts of the state. So this is a good question. I'm hearing that Alaska's Dall sheep numbers are going down. What are the reasons behind this? Too many tags, predators, disease, those are all question marks. And so Cabot, if you could start off, and then we'll go to Dan. Keep in mind, we've got 9 minutes to go here.
Sure. Yeah, I'll keep it pretty quick. And you know, to answer it exactly, Fish and Game is going to give you the best answer on population levels and stuff like that in the state. I've been up in the Brooks Range for the past 12 seasons. Same with Thor. You know, going forward, I'm going to be down in the Wrangles. But just speaking on terms of sheep in and around where we were, the Brooks Range is huge. So you've got these mountain ranges across the state, the Alaska Range, the Chugach, Talkeetnas, Wrangles, Brooks. They're all different size proportions. And, you know, they give, you know, population number data and everything like that, but their survey data is very small. So you've got, say, for the Brooks Range, you know, you've got 700 some miles from east to west that people are hunting. So I can give an example for the area that I was in this year. We did have a super, super heavy snow, and we did see a number decrease in the camp that I was at this year. But our camps 20 miles to the west had record numbers of ram sightings and lots of sheep. So I think it's very site specific. And when you're talking to your, you know, potential outfitter that you're going with, ask questions. What did you see in the field this last year? What are the future, you know, numbers of hunters you're going to take, especially if you're booking a hunt 2 to 3 years out? You know, just ask those specific questions, and I think that'll help you make the decision. There's always going to be mature rams on the mountain. It's just a matter of what size those rams are going to be and of age. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I'll pass to Dan or Thor to kind of hit a little bit more on it.
It's certainly in recent, the Chugach, when I started hunting it back in 90 myself, and then when I started guiding in it full time with my own buddies in 93, we had 50% to 75% more sheep. We've lost a vast amount of sheep in the Chugach, and almost all of it, you know, from what the Fish and Game has done in studies and stuff, has been weather related, heavy snows, you know, and that impacts the sheep. And then you got to, we back in 2006, 2007, we lost about 50% of our sheep across the Chugach Range because of weather, I believe. And then, but once you knock those sheep down, then the predation comes in, where the eagles are getting so many lambs and the coyotes are getting so many lambs. And it seems like in the Chugach Range, the lamb population is the factor in the population, that you don't have any carryover, you don't have any recruitment into the herd. And that's really affected it over the years. We've been kind of stable for the last 6 or 7 years. Last year, the Alaska Range, it was weather related, lots of heavy snow, and they had a big die off. We didn't see as much of it in the Chugach, even though we had a pretty heavy snow load. We had extremely high winds all winter. We're getting that again this year. And those winds blowing off the ridges and stuff seem to make the difference. The 4 sheep we took this last year, they were 10 and 11 and 2 12s, you know, so we had old rams still out there, but we don't have near the rams we have had in the past. Thorough scouting before the season. We're required as guides to advise the hunters of the availability of game before the season starts. And being up there and thorough scouting stuff will tell you, usually what's going on before the season even starts. And but it's mainly weather related, a little bit predator related. I think we got a higher population of coyotes than we used to. We don't have that extremely cold weather we used to. And that used to take care of a lot of the predators because they couldn't survive it as easy as the sheep could. A heavy wet snow that freezes is a lot more deadly on sheep than a heavy amount of dry powdery snow that gets blown off the ridges. But I would say overall in Alaska, it's more weather related than anything else right now.
Yeah, and so in my experience in the Brooks Range, having grown up there, there was more sheep in the 80s and into the mid 90s than there is now, especially in the south central part of the mountain range. We used to have a lot more predator harvest, and those numbers were probably a little bit higher because of land and shoot and some of that. So we probably have some predator related reduction in population there. And then on the north side of the Brooks Range, there was predator control and predator harvest in the 70s and 80s too. But I would say in the areas I'm most familiar with, we had a weather event in 2013. I lost over half the sheep there, similar to what Cabot's talking about in the area that he was in this last year. The sheep are coming back really nice. We had a great population high there in 2012. Things went way down. We didn't have the same bad weather event that a lot of the state had last year where I'm at. Excellent lamb recruitment. And so from 2013 till now, I've watched the population go down into a significant decline. And then I've watched the population approximately double in the past 3 years as really strong numbers of lambs and recruitment come into the population with some good winners. So I think that the short answer is don't have too many tags. That's a great question. We're harvest ticket, limited number of guides and non-resident activity where I'm at, and then it's a remote place. We see the reason why I say it's not too many tags because of the numbers of mature legal rams we leave on the mountain after the season. So it's not a hunting pressure issue. You could triple the hunting pressure. Wouldn't do anything to the population like what a bad winter will do. So, but talk to your outfitters. We've had die-offs here in different parts of the states in this past year in the Alaska range as an example. Your outfitter is going to tell you the honest, they're going to give you the scoop. Say, hey, how's it going? How many people you take? What's your average? If your outfitter is averaging 8-year-old sheep, that's a really good indication that they're harvesting right at whatever is available. If your outfitter can show that they're averaging 10-year-old sheep, 10-year-old sheep, then you know that they're leaving some decent sheep on the hill. And you're looking at not just a minimum number of mature animals that you're going to be having the chance to pursue, but you've got some extra sheep left over in a high quality hunt. So with that, we're right at a couple minutes to go. Remind everyone, go to the expo site. My business is Arctic Alaska Adventures. Cabot, go ahead. Cabot, if you'd introduce your business quickly, and then Dan, just so they know where to find you.
Sure. Mine's Alaska Wild Wind Adventures.
Mine's Alaska Trophy Adventures, and my web address is aktrophyadventures.com. The easiest way to find me is go to Facebook, Alaska Trophy Adventures, under Dan Montgomery there, and then click on my website there, and it goes right to the website that way.
Yep. And there's other folks, if you go to the expo site and you're interested in sheep hunts, you type in the search window sheep, and it'll pull up the outfitters that offer sheep hunts. If you're interested in moose, you type moose in there, and there's a little bit of a feature where the hunt summaries, when you pull that up, are kind of messed up because we're guides and we're technologically figuring out exactly how this works. But the search engine works as far as which guides offer those hunts for those species. So I encourage everyone to use the expo site. You can calendar a meeting with us. Okay, but we're going to wrap up here. We're right at 11 o'clock. And we have to clear the line to keep the seminars going. So I am going to leave this seminar. Thank you, everyone, once again. Thanks, Cabot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, you guys are awesome.
Thank you, Thor. Thanks, Cabot. Thanks, everybody, for attending.